welcome and thank you for joining me. This is the last known image of David Carl, an African-American Civil War hero born in Oyster Bay in 1845. Carl and other men of freedom fought for the North against the South to abolish slavery. The legend of David Carl is a hidden footnote in the small Long Island community.
Mr. Downing shook David's hand and said, "You are now part of the best fighting army in the world. Godspeed to you. I'll see you on January 2nd. Thank you, Mr. Downey, and Merry Christmas to you."
In the book, The Footsteps of a Forgotten Soldier, The Life and Times of David Carl, the direct descendants of David Carl chronicles his remarkable journey from his birth to the path to the historic Carl Hill in Oyster Bay.
We've been on the same property for the 150th year since the Civil War.
Denise Evans Shepard is referring to a piece of important history, forgotten history, in the heart of Oyster Bay that involves her family.
We want to be able to share our story with everyone.
Shepard heard the historical stories as a young girl. As she got older, she did her own research. Her great-great-grandfather, David Carl, was a free black man in the slave era who, along with other free black men in 1863, voluntarily enlisted to fight in the war. After his return from the war in 1865, Carl and several other black soldiers came back to live in Oyster Bay. The small northern town was 17% African American. Today, the population is less than 1%.
I find it fascinating. I love it, because not that many stories that you hear growing up in schools, about people of color that actually contributed to the society. The only thing you heard was that they were slaves.
David Carl has been buried in the Pine Hollow Cemetery since 1910. Carl used his wartime earnings to establish his family roots in Oyster Bay.
The family has been there for generations, since 1865 to the present time, and I currently live in his home.
Shepard would like for the home to be designated as a historical site. She is now the director of the Oyster Bay Historical Society, living and working in the town, as her great-great-grandfather had done over 150 years ago.
Denise Evans Shepard, along with her cousin Francis Carl, the great-great-grandson of David Carl, co-authored the book Footsteps of a Forgotten Soldier that details and chronicles the life of the family on Carl Hill. The year was 1941. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 8802, allowing African Americans to join the Marines and train at Montford Point in North Carolina. Men of color came from all over the United States for the opportunity to fight for their country, including Master Sergeant Richard P. Warren and Robert L. Harding, both from Roosevelt, Long Island.
Richard P. Warren and Robert L. Harding are two of three Montford Marines living on Long Island. They remember a time where segregation was culturally accepted and very prevalent in the military.
Complete segregation. Weekends and holidays when the Black Marine would go into Jacksonville, they were escorted by military police. Curfew, 10 p.m., that we would have to be back on the base. There are three of us that we know of, Mr. Harding and Chuck Weaver in the Westbury. We were stationed, perhaps, trained at Montford Point, but I did not know Mr. Harding at the time. I got to know him after, of course, we retired.
Of the 20,000 African-American Marines who fought for their country yet struggled for equality, approximately 200 still survive and were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal by Congress in 2013. In Roosevelt, a monument was erected depicting the names of 29 local community veterans.
The monument here in town, we erected a monument of all the veterans who had served in the military. At the present time, there are 39 veteran names inscribed on that monument. Mr. Harding is one of those names. Now, however, out of the 39 of those veterans, there are only 3 original Montford Point Marines names that's on that monument.
As a result of their efforts and accomplishments in battle, in the years ahead, the Marine Corps has undergone significant changes in its approach towards equal opportunity.
What we done during that time opened up the area that whereby black Marines today are not, they're treated well, and segregation, of course, you know, that's a thing of the past, but in some areas did exist, but we're not held back because of being who we are.
In 2011, President Barack Obama signed legislation to award the Congressional Medal of Honor to the Montford Point Marines. Today, more than 60 years after the color barrier was broken at the Metropolitan Opera, black singers still face obstacles when trying to build their careers within the industry. But Marsha Thompson and Jarrell Williams are using their voices to build a legacy for others to follow.
Since the time of the great Marian Anderson and Todd Duncan, opera singers who fought segregation in the early 20th century to perform in the United States, young African Americans like Thompson and Williams have exploded onto the opera scene. While entertainers of color from their generation dominate the pop and R&B charts, they chose the multifaceted genre of opera.
I chose opera because I started my career as a classical violinist. So it goes right in line with all of the other music that I've been studying my whole life. But opera singers most of the time can also sing other genre of music.
We come from different backgrounds, generally, different genres of music. There's jazz, there's pop, there's R&B. What I would explain to the children would be that I had the opportunity to work with such R&B singers, such as Lauryn Hill. I just did a fashion show with Erykah Badu last weekend. And so they would say, okay, what is that all about? And it's kind of like, well, you know, we do what we do because it's a specialized art form. It is very difficult to even get into opera.
After early struggles for recognition, both feel that blacks have a place in opera.
I just returned from Russia. I sang with the Krasnoyarsk Philharmonic in Siberia, Russia in December. And that was an amazing opportunity.
When I was in high school, I had the great chance to work with the New York Voices playing piano for a concert we did in our Ross High School in Brentwood, Long Island. And my choir teacher said, well, you should consider taking up singing because you have a good voice. And I thought, okay, why not? I did the musicals, and that was kind of my entryway into performing as a soloist because I was a pianist. And currently I'm working with two other baritone colleagues of mine on a group called Legacy Secured, where we are the next generation of African American baritone greats to walk in that line that they had, you know, that they've opened for us.
George Shirley, the first black opera tenor in 1961, wrote eloquently, "Opera, like any other theatrical form, reflects the human condition. There's dignity and degradation, the entire range of what it means to be a human."